Corvus Corax, Primarch of the Raven Guard, was a figure emblematic of both justice and shadows. Clad often in the darkest hues, he was a man whose very presence seemed to absorb light, as if the void had sculpted a warrior of its own. His armor, a sable suit adorned with a motif of the raven, whispered of stealth and death, and his visage, pale and sharp, bore the gaunt, haunted look of one who had peered too long into the abyss. Corax's demeanor was one of perpetual vigilance. He moved with the silent grace of a predator, every step measured, every gesture precise. In battle, he was the incarnation of vengeance, a figure who struck from the shadows with lethal efficiency. But it was not merely martial prowess that defined him. He was a leader burdened by the weight of his own ideals, a champion of the downtrodden, and a liberator of the oppressed. He fought not just for victory, but for the hope of a better tomorrow. The bonds he forged with his warriors were born of mutual respect and shared suffering, for he demanded no sacrifice he would not make himself. Corax's spirit was one of relentless determination and introspection. He often pondered the morality of his actions, the toll of war, and the cost of victory. His heart, though scarred by betrayal and loss, remained steadfast in its pursuit of justice, and his soul was a beacon for those lost in the darkness of the galaxy's endless night. Corax was discovered on Lycaeus, the moon of Kievar, a planet whose very essence thrummed with the ceaseless activity of its vast manufactories. In those days, Kievar stood as a beacon of technological prowess, its city-sized forges consuming the rich veins of ore that scarred the lifeless face of Lycaeus. Under the relentless gaze of heavily armed sentinels, the denizens of Lycaeus toiled. These were men and women condemned by fate and decree, criminals, political dissidents, and those unfortunate enough to fall short of the merciless quotas imposed by their overlords. For the rulers of Kievar, Lycaeus was more than a mere mining colony. It was a crucible of exploitation, providing an inexhaustible reservoir of human labor. Corax spent his formative years training. He became a leader as well as a rebel. In time, he organized the people into a fighting force. The capable among them were promoted. They amassed vast stockpiles of weapons. They even began inciting riots and rallying more followers to their cause. When the rulers of Kievar retaliated, Corax was well prepared. His warriors outmaneuvered their enemies at every turn, decimating their supply lines and striking out at the largest cities on Kievar with atomic weapons. Soon their enemy had been crippled, and the liberation of Corax's people was secured. Once victory was at hand, they renamed their home Deliverance and celebrated their hard-won victory. Soon the Emperor himself appeared to Corax, and after a day and night, Corax was appointed Primarch of the Raven Guard Legion, and the world of Kievar was rebuilt for the Imperium. During the Great Crusade, Corax's mastery of strategy and sabotage became legendary. The Raven Guard, often operating under Horus's orders, garnered renown for their unparalleled expertise in covert operations, sabotage, infiltration, and lightning strikes. Yet, despite their professional synergy, Corax and Horus were often at odds, and so too was he at odds with his brother Kurz, whom he had been compared to on multiple occasions. These rifts between brothers would only become greater as time went on. These rifts culminated during the Horus Heresy, namely during the Dropsite Massacre. It was here that Corax fully realized just how far his brothers had fallen. Horus and his cohorts attacked those loyal to the Emperor, destroying many of their once brothers in a disgusting display of heresy. For the next 98 days, Corax endured a relentless struggle for survival, clinging to existence with only a sparse contingent of his soldiers managing to escape the relentless onslaught. It was in this crucible of despair that Corax confronted the full weight of his legion's grievous wounds, and the harrowing uncertainty of their continued survival. In this abyss of desolation, the Emperor revealed to his beleaguered son a guarded secret. He divulged the existence of a hidden laboratory, a sanctum wherein lay preserved the genomes of all the Primarchs. This revelation ignited within Corax a spark of renewed determination. Guided by this newfound hope, Corax embarked on a quest to this clandestine repository. His journey was fraught with peril, yet his resolve was unyielding. Upon reaching the laboratory, Corax delved into the arcane mysteries of genetic science, striving to unearth a remedy for his legion. His relentless pursuit bore fruit, and with this hard-won triumph, he commenced the monumental task of reconstructing his shattered legion. However, heresy is a relentless spectre. Alfarius of the Alpha Legion, ever the shadowed saboteur, moved to thwart Corax's efforts. The treachery of the Alpha Legion insidiously infiltrated the Raven Guard's ranks, unleashing abhorrent mutations that threatened to unravel the very fabric of Corax's endeavor. Confronted with this monstrous perversion, Corax was compelled to marshal the full might of his legion in a desperate bid to stem the tide of corruption. Thus began a new chapter in their saga, one of fiery retribution and unyielding loyalty. Corax and his Raven Guard carved a swath across the galaxy, their talons a blinding arc of vengeance against the traitor legions. They moved from system to system, each victory a testament to their unbroken spirit and unwavering fealty. With every engagement, they rescued beleaguered allies and brought ruin to their enemies. By the time Corax had painstakingly rebuilt his legion, the Horus heresy had drawn to a close, and Guilliman decreed the fragmentation of the mighty legions. Though Corax recognized Guilliman's vision, his heart remained burdened by the monstrous abominations he had, in desperation, spawned. For countless hours he brooded over the fate of these grotesque remnants of his genetic tampering, each moment a torment of conscience. In a somber resolution, Corax decided to grant the Emperor's peace to these unfortunate souls, ending their suffering with his own hands. He prayed fervently for their absolution and his own, each life taken a plea for forgiveness. Racked by an all-consuming guilt, he then sealed himself within his chambers in the Ravenspire, beseeching the Emperor for mercy in his solitude. Whether Corax found the absolution he so desperately sought remained shrouded in mystery, yet, precisely a year after his self-imposed confinement began, he emerged from the tower and departed Deliverance, setting course for the Eye of Terror, never to be seen by the Imperium again. His final recorded words, laden with sorrow and determination, were simply, nevermore. Driven by a thirst for vengeance, Corax embarked on a relentless hunt for the traitor Primarchs, seeking retribution for the treachery of the heresy. In his pursuit, he became something different. The warp twisted his form into a being of darkness and shadow. These new fearsome abilities enabled him to wreak havoc within the Eye of Terror. His shadowed form, far surpassing the might of the average Primarch, drew the attention of the demon Primarch Lorgar himself. The two titans clashed in a brutal duel. Corax, wielding his newfound abilities with lethal precision, dominated the fight, driving Lorgar into retreat. As Lorgar vanished into the ether, Corax stood triumphant, his vow echoing through the warp. Thus, the Raven Lord continued his dark quest, a shadowy spectre of vengeance, ever pursuing the demons of his past across the warp-twisted realms of the Eye of Terror. In the end, Corax's effect on the galaxy was profound and multifaceted. He was a symbol of resilience and rebellion, of the unending quest for justice in a universe mired in betrayal. His legacy, like the Raven's flight, was a journey through the darkest skies, a testament to the enduring spirit of those who refused to be broken by the shadows of their past.